All right, Charles, I'm missing the whiteboard, but I'm a big fan of yours, and I wanted to explain to you, based on your video, as to why you shouldn't buy a home and why it's not a good investment, and why I chose to purchase a home, and why I feel that it was the right choice.
That's my man, Angelo. Big props to this guy. A couple weeks ago, Levy and I put a video out of Change My Mind, why I thought purchasing a single family home to live in is the worst possible investment there is. So we put it out to everybody. Send us a rebuttal video. Angelo here with the freaking hair. I mean, damn, great freaking head of hair. It looks like it's tattooed on. This is perfect. It was nice enough to send us a video back, and now we're gonna go back and forth and see his thoughts.
So I'm an engineer by trade. I'm not in real estate or lending or anything of the sort. I do want to use rental houses or rental income as a supplement to my career, but I actually really enjoy my job. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy who I do it with. And I want to use real estate as a supplement to that because I enjoy it. I enjoy working on homes. I enjoy seeing value in things that other people may not see value in. That's probably why I've rebuilt a lot of cars and whatnot.
This is an awesome point. I think everybody should invest in real estate. I think it's the best possible investment out there. But like Angelo here, very smart dude. He knows, he loves his job, he loves what he does, and he loves who he does it with. So A, if you're gonna invest in real estate, you need the education, you need the foundation. B, what type of real estate you invest in and the way is in which you go about doing it depends on your life. He has a part-time job, he's a full-time job, so he wants to invest in more passive investments like rental housing.
See value where others may not see it, and I could see through a lot of things. Sometimes that doesn't always work out in my favor, but more often than not, I'm able to get through it, and you learn along the way. So why I personally bought a home and why I feel it's a good investment is you have tax incentives. So when you purchase a home rather than when you rent, there's no tax incentive to owning or to renting. When you own a home, I have quite a large amount of items that I can deduct, my mortgage interest, property taxes, all of which I deduct when I go and file my taxes each year. So that's probably one of the more important ones.
This is a common misconception. It is true, but it's not. A lot of people will say, my accountant says, I'm making too much money, I gotta go buy a house, I need write-offs. That is not sound logic. If you're making $100,000 a year and after taxes you're bringing home $70,000 a year. So you say, you know what, I don't want to pay $30,000 in taxes, I want to pay less, so you go and buy a house. But now you have even though you're writing off certain things, you still have all those expenses. So instead of making $70,000 and paying those taxes not owning a house, maybe now you only take home $30,000. You have $30,000 left at the end of the year because you're paying for all kinds of additional things that even though they're a write-off, still went out the window. The money still went out the window.
Another thing that's relevant right now is mortgage forbearance. I personally wouldn't do it, but sometimes with our current situation, you may find yourself in a position where you need to do that. And you don't have rent forbearance. I mean, you may have an understanding landlord, but more likely than not, you're on your own. And
again, mortgage forbearance is one of those things that you just don't want to get into. It's very simple. Either you can afford something or you can't. The biggest problem in this country is people spend way too much money to buy shit that they can't afford, that they really don't need to impress people that they don't even like. Yes, you can have mortgage forbearance right now and kick the can down the road, but essentially if you can't come back from that, you're gonna have a foreclosure, you're gonna have a short sale, you're gonna have super banged up credit, you're gonna be losing money potentially, it's gonna be a big problem. If you're renting, you make a deal with your landlord, you say, listen, I'm really sorry, I'll pay you 1 month's rent or 2 months rent, whatever it is, I'm gonna go back and live with my parents, but you're not chained to that property the same way you are as if you own it.
That's how it goes, you reap what you sow, but there's such thing as mortgage forbearance, and that will work out in your favor in that instance, where you come across hard times. Now, another thing that you have is rent prices are high. In my opinion, you're really only a couple of $100s away from purchasing a home, outside of the lump sum down payment. Your monthly payment is probably very close to where you're gonna be if you were paying for a mortgage. So in my personal instance, I couldn't really justify renting at a high number when I could pay a little bit more for a mortgage, so I stayed at home a little bit longer. I was able to save up that lump sum and purchase a home. And, it's 5% down. You're not putting that whole figure down. If you're buying a $400,000 house, you're not coming up with $400,000, you're coming up with 5%.
So this is the number one thing that I hear from people. And I get it, it makes perfect sense. It depends though. Let's say you're a single person. You don't have to rent one of these highfalutin apartments that are $3,000, $4,000 a month. You can find a $1,500 apartment to rent. Also, it's not the mortgage, it's everything else. So yeah, you have the mortgage, you have the taxes, principal, interest, taxes, okay, that's your mortgage. But now you're heating an entire house. You're cooling an entire house. You have electric for an entire house. You have to have the lawn mowed. Things break. The list goes on and on and on. So that's why those expenses are much, much greater. Plus, even if you're putting 5% down, 10%, 20% down, you are losing that chunk of capital that you can invest. Plus, it psychologically impacts you because more people are less likely to take risks when they know that they have that big nut that they have to pay and make every single month.
And I think that's attainable. I think that's something that people should strive for. And, if the idea of owning a home is appealing, which not everybody's into, as far as maintaining things, I understand the hardship that can come with it. I personally enjoy it, and that's why I chose to do so. So, that you can then use the bank to create an asset for yourself. So if you buy your first home, I'll use myself as an example. Say I bought a single family home, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, a small ranch, 1,000 square feet, and I put my 5% down, I purchased the home. And now I've got it, I live in it 2 or 3 years, I'm ready to upgrade. Now I'm gonna make my next house my primary residence. I can then move into my next house, upgrade, put another 5% down or not 20% down because I'm gonna make that my primary residence. So long as I rent my other home, my first home, my 2-bedroom, 1-bath, I can move to my next home and make a few dollars on my previous home and then move into my next home. And now it's an asset because it's a rent, it's bringing me money. So I think if you go about it the right way, there's ways where your first home or purchasing a home could be an asset. Another thing that you can do is use your home as leverage. So you can take out a home equity loan or a HELOC loan, and there's equity in your house that way.
So a couple of different things there. Typically when you buy a house retail that you live in, it's expensive and the numbers don't really jive. And what a lot of people look at when they rent them, although it really depends on your situation. So when you're renting this house, people aren't factoring in vacancy rate, maintenance, management, CapEx, etc. All these costs that go into it. So when you look at your house that you used to live in that you're now renting, a lot of times it's in a very nice area, taxes are high, rents are decently high, but when you make all the deductions that most people don't, you're making 2%, 3%, and it doesn't really make sense. I would rather you not buy that 2-bedroom house, use that money to buy your first rental property, start accumulating rental properties, and then have the income from the rental property pay your mortgage for the house that you ultimately decide to purchase to live in.
You also don't necessarily have to move out of the house to rent it and to make it an asset or to manage your bills a little bit better. So you've mentioned it before, and why I was a big advocate for moving to Suffolk County is you can have an accessory apartment in Suffolk County. I personally do. And that was something that as a renter, you don't have the option to do. So
very, 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 very smart. Right on point. Suffolk County, Nassau County does not allow this unless you're a senior. Suffolk County does. You're allowed legal accessory apartments by permit. The permits are inexpensive. It's not that difficult to legalize. You just hit up Captain Permit and they'll tell you exactly how to do it. This is very, very smart. So if you're gonna go into a place and you want to make sure that you're not totally dependent on your salary, God forbid something happens, you can legally rent with an accessory apartment, like my man says, to any of the programs, CDC, Section 8, or just regular cash tenants. So that's very smart, good point.
I feel that if you buy a house, you have the option to make it an asset if you go about it the right way, if you do your homework, if you learn and you grow from there. It is an asset, and I think if done properly, and if you're interested in it, it may not be for everybody, but you're purchasing a home is absolutely an asset. I apologize there. And I think that that's something that a lot of people should consider and do a little bit of homework. And like you said, you don't want to buy the house for the wrong reasons. I bought what I'm interested in because that's what I want to do. I'm not worried about what anybody else is considering, and or that even you say I shouldn't have purchased a home. I'm interested in what I think is best for me, and I'm open-minded. I like to learn, and as I mentioned, I want to supplement my income with real estate. But
very smart, man. Thank you for that. I mean, very good point. He's a secure guy who knows what he wants. He purchases what he wants. He does what he wants. But at the same time, he's smart about it. He's not overextending himself. He knows what he's getting into. He knows he's a handy guy. He knows what he can and cannot deal with and what he can and cannot fix. Very smart. My hat goes off to him.
That's my rebuttal to your video that you mentioned. So I'm curious to what you think about my comments, and then maybe we can have some civil discourse and go from there. But I really do appreciate your content. You do a great job. You're very enthusiastic, and you put out some great stuff. And I'm really happy to see this at the ground floor. I know that it's going to go far. You've got a lot of passion, and it shows. So I appreciate the time, Charles, and we'll talk.
Michael, can't thank you enough. Thank you very much for taking the time out. A lot of awesome points. You definitely expanded my mind on certain things. I hope I forced you to see things in a different light. And it's great that we can have these, intellectual debates and have differences of opinion and views. That's something that's rare these days. So thank you. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate you taking the time out, and I appreciate you putting yourself out there.